What's up, everyone? It's Matt Merzik, aka MVM397. Hope everyone had a good Christmas and they got to spend some time with your friends and your family and had lots of good stuff to eat. Got some decent presents. So I've got the next week off, so I thought I'd play catch up on the 172nd Sinanju commission I've been working on. It's quite daunting. There's a lot of pieces, a lot of prep, and a lot of sanding, and that's what I've been doing all day. I've been sanding all day, wet sanding to be exact. So I had everything in primer from about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And I took a little break to paint my Christmas ornaments, and now I'm back on the Sinanju. So I've been painting since about 10:30 today, so going on 8 hours, and this is how far I've gotten. This is all I've sanded so far. So this is a very slow and tedious process, but this step is very important in getting a really good paint job in the end, especially on a resin kit, because this is the stage where I go out and I sand out any imperfections. I fill any bubbles that I've seen, and as I'm sanding, I'm filling spots with putty. You can see here I got some squadron putty going in right there. Got a bubble that was there. So as I'm sanding, I'm filling bubbles and fixing any mistakes. There's a lot of little tiny bubbles, mostly around the edges of the pieces, and that just tells me that that part was sitting probably this way in the mold, and the bubbles kind of rose to the top and got trapped there. So what I have, I've been using this bucket of water. It's off to the side here, but basically it's just a bucket of water, and I've got all my sanding. Sorry, I have a towel on my lap because this is a very messy process. My workbench is a wreck. This is it's just messy, so be prepared. But this is I do this as opposed to dry sanding because it does two things. It's less aggressive on the parts, and it doesn't leave such a deep of a sanding scratch, and it just keeps the dust down, especially with the primer. It gets real dusty and stuff. So I got a stack of 600 grit sandpaper here. This is wet dry. I've got a bunch of super fine sanding sponges that I use these wet and I use these dry, but right now I've been using them wet. And I have a bunch of my old 400 grit sanding sticks that I typically use for sanding plow plate and stuff, but these have been used quite a bit, so they're not quite as aggressive, and when they're wet, they work really well. So I'll just give you a quick example of how I do this. There's, again, no secret, just really time consuming, not hard, just really time consuming. So this is why you can see that some of these resin kits just take an enormous amount of time to get everything just prepped for paint. So and I had initially started to spray everything with the Krylon primer, which you see here, which is this dark gray. But it was going on a little too thick for the pieces, so I switched over to Mr. Surfacer Mr. Surfacer 1000, and that's been actually working really, really well. It sands much easier than the Krylon. I do love the Krylon because it's great on a big kit because it's thick, it's inexpensive, does a great job of filling any little air holes and stuff. But when I have some fine details on kits like this, I just stick with the Mr. Surfacer because it doesn't obliterate any details. So like you can see, I've gone in here and sanded this nice and smooth with the final 600 grit wet dry sandpaper. This one's ready for the final coat of primer. There's only a few pieces over here that have putty work on it that hasn't been sanded, because I putty it, I go sand some more pieces, and after that's been dried for about half an hour, so I can sand the putty. So for example, like this piece, this has been hit with the Mr. Surfacer 1000, and it's ready for wet sanding. So since this is mostly a flat surface, I'm not going to hit it with my sponges. I use these on a curved surface, and I'll pull one out to show you that. Let me see. A good example would be, I'll pull out the waist armor. Actually, we'll start with that one first, because this one actually has some putty work I have to fix. So this is the waist armor. There's only two pieces, and the first thing I do is so I'm dipping my stick in water, and I'm going to go around and get all the edges first. So I'm going to go through and just make sure all these edges are nice and flat, and the primer acts as a guide. So as I sand, you can see the imperfections in the surface here. Let's see if I can get this light. There we go. There's a cord away. So as I sand, you can see the imperfections in the surface there. Once that's all nice and flat and all the imperfections are gone, I see one little bubble there, but I probably won't fix that because you're not going to see it. It's all the same color. So that's how I know all the imperfections are gone. Same thing on this edge. Let's do light sanding at first. But you can see how there's, you know, it's not all the same color. You can see some primer that's in the recesses. So that's when I go back and I just sand that down until those are all gone. And if it's a bubble or something, you'll never sand it out. You'll just have to fill it with putty. So I always hit the edges first. And there's a little bit of a discrepancy. Let's see if I can get it out without having to sand too much. So right there. So I'll go back and I'll fill that little divot with some putty. I'm just going to continue on with this piece. I'm not going to sand too many pieces because it's the same process over and over again and it's really boring. It just takes a really long time. So, I mean, I had a few pieces in here that took me 20 minutes to sand one piece just because there's so many different surfaces and angles and stuff to get into. So it's I'll probably spend a good full day, another full day just wet sanding, if not another 2 days before I get to the final primer. But if you want a really good paint job, this is what you got to do. I mean, I could just have thrown paint on it now, but then you would see all those imperfections in the paint. We don't want that. So since this is a curved surface, I'll get a super fine sanding sponge and I'll put a little bit of water on it and I'll sand it. And this primer is pretty thin, so this will sand really quick. But I sand until all the little imperfections are gone. So anyone who asks, how do you get a good paint job? Here, this is it right here. Lots and lots of sanding. So prior to my first round of primer, I soaked everything in Purple Power for, it was actually in there for a couple days. I put it in there and kind of forgot about it. So Purple Power for a few days, and then washed it all off, rinsed it off, and then it was ready for the first round of primer. So get in there and try to get in all the nooks and crannies if you can. And if you can't, that's when the sandpaper comes in handy because you can fold it and get it in there. And basically, this first round of primer is, for the most part, is going to all be sanded off. It acts as my sanding guide. So I don't care if there's anything left or not. All I want is a flat surface for the final round. And since those are flat, I'm going to use my sanding sticks. I don't want to round off those flat spots. I keep them nice and flat. Same with this bevel right here. I don't want to round it off, so I'm going to use my sanding stick. And then this little rounded part here. And this piece is pretty much good to go.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
Can me and you play marbles?
But yeah, can I finish my video and then I was gonna get something to eat, but we can play afterwards.
What?
I'm making a video on how to sand. It's very exciting.
No, it isn't.
So give me about 15 minutes or so I can.
Can you cut this open now?
I will.
Sure.
I was just gonna have leftovers. Oh.
I'll have tacos. Yep.
All right, Here you go, bud. Mike, let me down a little bit.
I'll be here.
All right.
I'll just be over here.
Oh, why don't you go downstairs so I can finish my video?
Why are your hands so big?
Because I've been sanding all day. Can you go downstairs so I can finish my video? I'll be down a little bit. All right. My son wants to play with one of his Christmas toys, so again, I'm not going to do many pieces because it's all the same process. So that piece is ready. Now we just put it over here to sit. This is part of the torso. This has got the Krylon primer on there. Again, this is a great primer, but it's harder to sand. It gunks up your paper really, really quick. So I go through paper very fast on this stuff, just because it's so thick. But it does an excellent job of filling. So when you do wet sanding, you need to get specific paper that's made for wet sanding. You just can't go to Home Depot and buy normal sandpaper. Now, Home Depot does sell wet, dry sandpaper. It's expensive though. You only get like 4 sheets for like $5 or $6. I suggest finding your local auto paint supply store or going online and buying a whole sleeve of it. So like, I'm lucky. I have a friend who works in a sandpaper company, so I don't have to pay for it. But you can get a big stack of 600 like this. It's like 100 sheets for it may be around $50 or so, but it's a much higher quality sandpaper. It'll last a lot longer, and it's a way less expensive than going to, say, Home Depot or Pet Boys or something like that and buying it from them. And they'll, you know, I just now ran out of 400 grit sandpaper that he gave me 3 years ago. And I've actually given a bunch of it out to my friends. If I hadn't given any away, I'd still have quite a bit left. But I just recently ran out of 400, so I need to hit him up again for another free sample pack, as he calls it, so he can give it to me. So this is it. This is the wet sanding process. And like I said, this Krylon gunks up your paper really quick. So I go through paper pretty quick when I'm sanding the Krylon. The Mr. Surfacer sands much easier, but it's a much thinner primer, so it doesn't have as much filling power. So we'll do this piece and we'll just call it. But just want to give you a quick look at the wet sanding process. So after this is all done, I'll give everything another quick bath in some soap and water just to make sure I get all the sanding residue off. Because if you don't, your next round of primer will not stick. So it's, you know, sanding, cleaning, sanding, cleaning, sanding, cleaning. Just over and over again until you get it perfect. So let's see. So I hope to have all this stuff sanded in the next couple of days so I can throw a primer on it again, and then I can start painting within the next week or so. That'd be ideal. Because I need to get this wrapped up so I can get on his next project in line, which is the 172nd Sinanju from G System. And it's a big kit. Size wise, it's smaller than the 160th G Neo grade kit, but it has a lot more pieces. It's an older G System kit. And it's pretty cool. It's an interesting design of the Sinanju. It's I don't know. You'll see when I start working on it. But here you can see it here where I got these little spots of primer where there's in the recesses. I'll sand till those are gone. And we're coming about on 15 minutes of me sanding and babbling, so not too exciting. But this is a very important step in the process of getting your kit ready for paint. And I'm going to take a break anyway because I haven't eaten today and I'm hungry. Since I've been standing for like 8 hours. And I've gotten about 20 pieces done. But it's no big deal. You throw on a show or a movie and just go to it. But that's it. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm wet sanding. I'll do a little bit more tonight. My hands are prunes. They're actually starting to get blistered from using the sandpaper so much. You'll have really nice soft hands when you're done. And I forgot to mention, I do have a drop of soap in this water. It just helps the sandpaper, kind of lubricates it and helps clean your sandpaper. So put a drop of dishwashing soap like Dawn in your water. It'll make sandpaper last longer, and it also just kind of cleans the part as you're sanding. But that's a trick I learned when I used to paint cars. But so that's it. So that piece is, I'm not gonna worry about sanding in there because this gets covered up with this piece, so I don't have to worry about sanding in there. You're not gonna see it. But that's it. So that's what I'm doing on the Sinanju for now, and then I won't videotape priming it, but the next video will be of me doing some paint work on it. So as always, thanks for watching. Hope everyone has a happy new year, and we'll catch you guys next time. Matt Mrozik signing out. Thanks.